Hey you, today I am swatching Wallace Seymour watercolor paints, and if you've ever been over to their site, you'll see how fantastic they are. They've got amazing colors, and I was just privileged enough to get a box set of these gifted to me by Jeanne Oliver, who was in Florence recently visiting me, and we had a great day, and she just gave me this really special watercolor set. From her site, you can see she has different watercolor palettes kind of pieced together, personalized by named by different cities. And this is the Hanalei Bay set that I'm kind of taking a look at today. But I could almost call it the Monte Morello set because the colors are so adapted to using these in the Tuscan hillside. They really are just so beautiful and earthy. They look like the olive groves and the hillsides here. So we'll be getting into my sketchbook, getting a little bit messy, even throwing some black in there, and let's get going. So Wallace Seymour calls their watercolors collection a vintage watercolor collection, and I can kind of see why. I have this Jeanne Oliver magazine that I collect these. I just think they're amazing. This is from 1903 and printed here in Florence, and I just thought the colors just work so well with these colors. I thought I'd bring it out here and use it as just a little bit of eye candy to look at and inspiration. And I'm starting out with the indigo, which is I'll just start out with my favorite. I will say, hands down, this is the favorite color of mine of their collection. I'm loving how smooth and creamy it is. It just goes on wonderfully. It's very saturated, and it's just a wonderful color to work with. I'm not lying. I've played with these a little bit before this swatching, and this was the one that I liked the best. And I just thought I'd also use these old stamps that I made for my art business years and years ago when I was making earrings, and kind of, I think these were the first things I printed on paper and put my earring holes through and would use them as earring cards. But they kind of look fun with this swatch and this vintage paper and ephemera right now. That let's swatch in these little squares. So this is the Bohemian Green Earth. Again, very creamy, light. It is a earth pigment, obviously from its name, we know that. So we know that they're working with real, I wouldn't say minerals, but earth. And it's possible that it was probably even sourced in Italy, because I know Wallace Seymour sources a lot of their colors here as well. Next one up is Davies Gray, which reminds me a lot of the vintage paper just right inside of this Jeanne Oliver magazine here. Just lovely beigey brown color. I just love it. And I don't know, just looking at the pages of inside of this magazine, there's this ridiculous little turtle game going on, and I don't know, I wish I could share all of these magazines with you. They're so interesting. The next one up is this kind of ochre color, Otella, that they call. Again, it must be another Italian earth pigment. It definitely has a little bit of a grit to it, and it's perfect for making some golden tones in the hillsides or little touches of wheat colors. And then we're moving on to the Vivanite, which is a lovely bluish gray. I found it to be the hardest one to kind of activate. It's just, I don't know, a little bit tougher to activate. But again, once you get it going, it's just beautiful and really, really a natural, gorgeous bluish gray color. And then we're just moving on to the last one here, the Terre Verte, which is like a earth green, again, and very earthy, a little bit of a grit to it, lots of granulation happening in these colors because they are earth pigments. And this one is just a little bit on the brighter side. You can see the sun coming through my window here. I'm sorry about that. It's causing some shadows, but it's a little bit brighter, maybe a little bit deeper in some ways as well. And it's just all together, I'm loving these colors. I think they have a lot of possibilities if you mix them together, and we'll be taking a look at that too. Again, a rainy day here on the hillside, and just check these out. Gorgeous. Such beautiful granulating colors. Perfect vintage look here. And so big compliments to Wallace Seymour. They did an amazing job. So I'm just got my sketchbook going here, and I'm doing what I like best, starting with a little of the darker pigment here. I think this is the indigo, and letting myself just see how these mix together. And I'm going to enjoy taking my time, adding a little bit of water, seeing how they flow, which seems to be quite nicely, especially the indigo. Again, I love the indigo color. It's really beautiful. And let's just see, let's just take a look. I'm going to be swatching in a way that's more like painting at this point. I would say not even swatching. What am I saying swatching for? I'm painting now. I'm just full on going for it in my sketchbook, and let's just see where this takes me. One quality in paints that I like is when it blooms. And again, back to the indigo, also this Davies gray mixed in. I'm really liking how the Davies gray is mixing in with the greens and the blues. And I love it when a watercolor will just bloom a bit. So we know these are granulating quite heavily, but they also have particles fine enough that are allowing it to do that kind of cauliflower bloom look that I love. Just gonna feel like adding some lines in here. I love my big oversized graphite water-soluble pencil by Lyra, and then this is another one by Art Graph, I believe, and it's just fun to mix it in when the paints are still wet, and it just makes lovely little lines. Also, I think I'm adding in a little white gouache and watercolor to break it up a little bit, give it a little bit, not really a horizon line. I wouldn't call these full-on landscapes. To me, they're more skyscapes, but I don't know, just letting myself see how these will mix with a little bit of the gouache and white watercolor, adding in some of the gold or the golden colors, and, you know, just playing around, having fun. I'm also testing it out on just a gessoed old book page. I'm really into my old book pages. Gessoed, I have a video on that as well. I'll leave that at the end or in the comments, but it's just a nice place to more or less, let's say, do warm-ups and make shapes and just move my hand and the brush in a way that I don't really care about so much. And right now, I'm just thinking it's a fun way to try these different paints. Again, blending, testing the granulation, and seeing how they all kind of work and blend together. And I'll be adding in some other elements as well here in a second. favorite inks that I like to work with. It's the Ecoline 700 Black. And I don't know why they call it black, because it always kind of, I would almost call it a duochrome color. It separates, can become a little bit more lavender, sepia colors, depending on the paper, depending on your substrate that you're using it with. I've never gotten it to just dry flat out black. It's just very warm. So again, I'm adding in some pencil lines, or the graphite, the soluble graphite pencil, and just making some shapes that I wouldn't normally do. It's kind of fun to try some different shapes here. So I really love the blooms that came through with the salt and the Ecoline ink. I love the granulation happening in this kind of watery mess, and I'm gonna let it set aside for a minute, but I also know that it's gonna call me back, and as it does, I don't ignore that voice. If it says add more black, let's see what happens, especially if I'm working in kind of a junk journal sketchbook. So I'm just letting myself play, as I promised myself that I would, and not make this about having perfection and the perfect piece, but just saying, hey, I want to play with black. Like, this feels really good. And in a sense, I'm just kind of killing my darlings here. That saying keeps coming back to me. There's certain things that I know I love, but I kind of have to let go of them sometimes to find new things. And that's what this journal is about for me right now, is like letting go of some of the things I love, which of course were these gorgeous little watercolors, but like grabbing something new, something that lights me up. And in this case, right now, today, it's this blue acrylic paint in black and white gouache. So this layer underneath kind of informed, you can't see it as much anymore, obviously, but I love that it kind of led me in this direction. I probably wouldn't have grabbed a warm tone. I had these kind of earth, beautiful colors underneath. I thought I'm going to pop that out even more. And I grabbed the blue and made these leafy kind of textures, and I'm kind of liking it. Let me know down in the comments if you are killing your darlings in these days, if you have that voice inside your head that says, try something different. I hope you let into it, because that's where the exciting things happen. All right, see you again next time.